At first glance, this plant may look like it's been dusted by a midsummer snowstorm, or maybe like a variegated garden escapee, but this is actually a tough as nails native prairie annual. Those snowy white petals you're looking at aren't actually petals at all. They're modified leaves called bracts, framing tiny, fascinating flowers like other euphorbias. It packs a sticky, milky sap to keep herbivores at bay, but local pollinators absolutely adore these late-season blooms. Whether you're looking for a striking native annual for a drought-tolerant landscape, or just trying to identify this unique wildflower on the prairie, let's break down how to identify it, how it grows, and why it deserves a spot in the native ecosystem. Let's dive into this plant.
This is snow on the mountain, also known as Euphorbia marginata by its Latin name. It is in the Euphorbia family, also known as the spurge family, which means it has a few characteristics that some people might not love. But to me, this is one of my favorite annual wildflowers that pops up readily across the majority of the central Great Plains in the hot parts of the summer months. You'll see it growing up in the spring, but it really doesn't show its presence until late summer when the temperatures get nice and hot like today. It is 102 degrees, and this plant is doing amazing. It truly loves the heat and is one of the most heat and drought tolerant plants native to this region. I would compare it similarly to the toughness of a cactus when it comes to drought tolerance. It'll grow in just about any climate as long as it is not too moist or boggy. It doesn't love boggy soils. It likes to have these really well-draining soils, but it's not picky about what its soil type is. This is actually clay, but because it's on a hill and it's nice and well-draining, it still grows perfectly here. This is a rather beautiful plant, and it has a bunch of beautiful small flowers on it. And what you'll see here, this white color that is all over this plant that gives it its stunning appearance, they aren't actually the flowers. So the flowers are actually rather small, and I'll throw a clip up there of those, and they're greenish in color with a bit of a white pigment around them on their petals. The majority of what you see here are variegated bracts, also known as modified leaves, that are used for attracting wildlife. So they're this white cream color, and they pop out against the landscape, but the majority of the white you're seeing here are not the flowers, but more so modified leaves, also known as bracts. These bracts pop out against the flowers, attracting in pollinators, making it easier for the pollinators to find the flowers. Before we get on to the pollinators, let's talk about some of its other habits. It grows between 1 and 3 feet tall, but I'm actually going to switch over to another clump here in a moment and show that it does get rather tall in certain conditions. So if it has really rich soil and has too much water, it can actually get closer to 5, maybe even 6 feet in really rich conditions where it can basically grow all of the time. Right now, I'm actually observing some small different species of fly, some that look like a bee actually. That's an odd looking pollinator. They grow in zones 2 through 11, so they are not picky on their conditions at all, growing all the way down in southern areas in Texas and all the way north into northern parts of the United States and southern parts of Canada. It does really well in basically any conditions that are in prairies, roadsides, and sometimes even in stream beds, as long as it's very rocky, because they like rocky and gravelly soil, sandy soil, and clay soil if it's well draining. They just need well draining soil. They love a wide range of pH, so pH doesn't really matter. It will accept pHs of 5 to 9 as it isn't really picky on its soil type. It's very adaptable and will really just grow as long as it isn't in boggy soils. I actually see it growing near creeks a lot, but it's normally in very sandy soil that's very well draining. Earlier I mentioned that the flowers are very inconspicuous in comparison to the leaves, but they also bloom in the months of July all the way to October. So right now we're in mid-August and this guy is really going off. We had a few of them that started blooming a little earlier than that in late July, and they will only get prettier and more abundant towards the end of the year around October. Now, they are annuals, as I mentioned before, so they do not come back from the same clump every year, but this one clump right here can produce hundreds of seeds, and they readily grow up from seed, making them sometimes a weedy nuisance in certain areas. They're also non-native to a lot of different states where they've been introduced and they've naturalized. Some of those areas include some of the western states, because basically the border of the high plains is where they should be, from Montana down to Texas, and then over into the edge of the tallgrass prairies where they should be, but they've also been found growing in areas where they've escaped cultivation, and states like Connecticut and Maine, spreading along the eastern seaboard It isn't necessarily a terrible issue, but they are a bit weedy in those areas because they're naturalizing into an area they were not found previously. So they have small oval-shaped leaves, and when they are picked, they produce a large amount of latex, and I'll show that up close here in a clip. The latex can be an irritant, so if you are pulling this plant or trying to remove it, make sure to wear gloves, as a lot of people are very sensitive to that, and the more you touch the plant, the more likely you are to have a serious reaction to the latex, especially if you're in the sun and the sun and latex are mixed together. Towards the bottom of the plant, the leaves are a bluish glauca color, as they have small droplets of wax all over them, which actually isn't a true blue, but more like the sky. The blue color is an optical illusion, also known as Rayleigh light scattering. It is what makes the sky blue. The same thing is going on here. It has a thin coat of wax, which is reflecting light in a weird way. The wax helps hold moisture in this plant, which is one of the reasons why it's so drought tolerant. But the blue leaves on it actually give it a nice stunning appearance in the springtime before it gets these beautiful bracts on the top of the plant as it matures into late summer. This plant is invasive in other parts of the world, like in parts of Europe, Asia, and along like the eastern seaboard. It's not necessarily invasive, but it is becoming naturalized in those areas. But areas like Europe and Asia, where it has spread and started to come up, it has become a noxious weed or invasive in those areas. So a lot of people are trying to remove it. The best way to remove these plants is pulling them when they're young, because they come back through seed every year very heavily. So just because a clump's here this year doesn't mean it's going to be here next year, but there may be 20 or 30 clumps around this specific plant next year as it does spread seed very heavily. Now, many creatures cannot use this plant when it comes to eating, like deer, so it's extremely deer resistant, but certain birds like doves will eat the seeds. They're a bit immune to the toxins found within this plant because of the large amounts of latex. Now, with it having latex, you may think, like I did, that it's in the milkweed family, but it's actually not even closely related to the milkweed family. It's just coemergent evolution, which means two different things evolving similar circumstances because of their environment. As I mentioned earlier, it has these variegated leaves, which I'll show up close once again, that are very beautiful. They get that because they're trying to attract pollinators, but basically the areas that are white are just lacking chlorophyll, which is an adaptation so pollinators can help find them in the middle of a prairie. This is a larval host basically to one moth I could find, which is known as the white-tipped black moth, which is a very beautiful and alien-looking species of moth, and I'll show a picture of that up there. But many things cannot use it because of the heavy amount of latex in it, and it appears to be larger quantities than even milkweed. But just because it is full of latex does not mean its flowers are not beneficial. It has a ton of pollinators that use it, and I would even call it a pollinator magnet. In the late summer, when everything else is at bay, it is in full bloom, and you see tons of different species. You'll see solitary bees coming along and pollinating it consistently. These will be the short-tongued bees, so not your large bumblebees, but that are smaller, like solitary bees, are what you're going to see predominantly on this plant. You also see a few butterflies coming by and using it as a late source of nectar, including monarchs. I've seen time to time enjoying this flower, but then you'll also see wasp. I see actually a ton of wasp using this. Yellow jackets and red wasp are consistently using this as a pollinator source, and those guys are normally hated by humans, but to be really honest, they're very important pollinators, and they help pollinate this plant specifically, along with flies. A lot of people do not love flies, but the flies I've been seeing are not your average housefly, more so very exotic looking, almost bee-like flies that come along and pollinate this beautiful plant. Whenever honeybees use this plant, it actually creates a weird substance inside the honey, which makes it taste spicy, also giving it the name spicy honey or jalapeno honey that a lot of people enjoy, some people don't, but this is a cool plant to have around beehives if you want to have a very unique honey texture and taste. This plant is also very unique in the way that it's one of the few terrestrial plants to release large amounts of sulfur gas. Scientists still aren't sure exactly what the ecological purpose of that, but they think it has something to do with the plant's metabolism. It releases the sulfur gas in the form of dimethyl sulfide, and that is something that makes this plant very unique and actually gives it somewhat of a pungent smell if you smell it. And I had never noticed it until I was reading about that, but now sitting next to this plant, I do smell a slightly rotten egg type smell that's very odd and not pleasant, but also not super smelly, so it's not going to be something that's going to make your entire garden stink if you have this plant growing. It grows from a very robust stem and then bushes out at the top, That's why it grows in prairies really well, as its stem will be hidden by the grasses and then you'll see the tops of the plant. If you plant it in other beds and it towers above everything, it does look a little bit leggy and stemmy, and some people don't love that. But I really enjoy it growing in prairies alongside of all these grasses, as the grasses kind of hide its base, where all you see is the top of the flower here. Now we're going to move over here and show you some of the larger plants to show you what they could possibly do if they're overwatered. All right, so here's another area where it grows really well. This area, it does get a little bit taller. It's a little bit more shady here during the midday heat, so they get a little taller, but they're still doing excellent. And there's actually more bees on here because I think it's in an area with more shade, and its flowers are also more open, male part of the flower, for pollinators to come around and touch and to get nectar off of. So they get a little bit taller here. These aren't 5-footers, but these are about 3 feet tall, towards the tallest ones you'll see. But in the past, or on the house, there are some that get closer to 5 feet tall. They are a little leggier here, as you can see, because there isn't as much grass to hide the base of the stem, but there is this tick seed sunflower growing right here below it that is helping mask the trunk a tiny bit. They are not great for acting as a place for hibernation for insects in the fall, but what they do is they allow a stem to be up above, creating kind of an area that helps insulate other species, also catching debris if the wind's blowing on dry days, catching debris around the trunk, acting as a great thing to help insulate areas for bees to hibernate throughout the winter, because many of our solitary bees actually hibernate all winter and come back in the spring. So they don't actually die off in the winter, they just go to sleep using stems of other plants like this tick seed sunflower here, which has somewhat of a hollow stem, which acts as an insulator, and this growing up above it's going to help keep wind from hitting this as much during the winter months. So it is an absolute beautiful species. I highly recommend it if you're in anywhere of the native range of this plant and like something that pops in the late summer to kind of add a lot of texture and variety to your garden, acting as a stunning specimen plant. But that is about it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Please hit that subscribe button. This channel is all dedicated towards educating people about nature, the natural world, and the functions of plants and animals in the ecosystems that they belong in. I would like to one day travel the world talking about different plants and animals from all over the world, but right now we're just talking about mostly North American plants. Every dime this channel ever makes, if we get to the point where we can start making money on this channel, will be put back into preserving natures. It'll be used for growing native plants, for preserving land and purchasing land, hopefully one day into the future, to preserve the natural world, for education into the future, and for future generations to have genetic diversity so they can view it as our children deserve to see what we have here today. Liking, subscribing, and sharing this video is the best way to do that. So please go ahead and engage with this channel if you really want to help, and go check out my other videos on plenty of other plants that are native to this area and other parts of the United States and a few parts of the world, which I've done a few videos on. If you want to see more of that, make sure to hit subscribe so you still see frequent videos, and go ahead and hit the bell notification button so you are notified when I upload new videos. Please leave a comment if you have any questions or concerns, or something I didn't mention in this video, or something that you're just curious about. I try to reach out to each and every one of you to let you know that I'm here and that I'm trying to engage with all of you guys and answer any questions that I may have missed throughout the filming of this video. And with that, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.